But yeah, my bias overall hasn't changed for the dollar. It's still up. If I go to like the daily, weekly time frames, market structure is still up. We're still trading above this area of resistance, which is the key thing I'm looking at for pretty much the whole year for the DXY, because we've been trading inside this range for the past 2 years roughly. And this looks like the breakout of the range. So I'm actually looking for the longer term push back to the highs there. So overall bias for dollar is actually still very much bullish. However, dropping to the low time frames, things are getting a bit more tired. Starting to see some rejection. We had a lot of momentum last week to the upside, but I just left behind big wicks there. So we're seeing price struggle at the highs as well. Overall, very, very corrective as well. So it looks like price either may have a deeper correction for a slightly bigger pullback before continuing to the upside, or perhaps this might be a big fake out and price does break underneath that range and we see a bigger move to the downside. So in terms of the overall bias, I do agree. Weekly kind of time frame still shows upside, and I still do agree with that bias overall. And in terms of the market structure as well, this is still our last major swing low, which gave us our swing high up here. So technically speaking, dollar still has to break through this low for me to become actually bearish on this one, because we'll be breaking through the swing low and breaking underneath the range high as well. So that'll be two birds, one stone. So overall, I am bullish. But in terms of the current price action, with that kind of rejected momentum, really strong push to the upside, followed by a very strong push back down, does lead me to expect more downside. I did mention in the weekly analysis that this downside might just be a push back into the lows before price does go and find support and push back up again. Of course, we could push the upside from here. Could be anticipating a move to the downside that just doesn't happen. So that could be a possibility as well. But based on how price has moved, how aggressive we've seen price move as well, the fact that we are still pretty corrective on the way up does lead me to expect a bit more downside there for dollar. But overall, I am still bullish. We still haven't taken up those lows yet. It's still not underneath the weekly range. Therefore, the bias is still very much up on the higher time frames. But lower time frames, I do fancy a move to the downside there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for the dollar. But in all honesty, the price action isn't particularly great. We've been a little bit flat. Prior to this, we had a pretty clean trend, higher highs and higher lows. Things were looking pretty, a lot easier to map out and read. Now things are getting a bit more choppy. So it's a sign that things are slowing down. Perhaps we're forming a bit of consolidation, maybe a bigger pullback forms, but we haven't, necessarily changed direction yet on the higher time frames. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with the DXY bias. But I'll go through the rest of the USD pairs, share my bias on that, talk about the gold and silver. Then we'll get to other pairs as well, like pound gem. Remember, Trump is announcing new tariff. Yes. That could be bullish as well for the dollar. That's true. Of course, fundamentals will have their say as well. From a technical standpoint, things do look corrective, and I do fancy me to the downside. But of course, if fundamentals change that bias, if we see a lot of momentum to the upside, I'll look to adjust and see where we could go from there. In all honesty as well, I'm not really looking to trade USD pairs right now. Dollar CAD is the only USD pair which I do like, which is not quite ready for me to be shorting just yet. So we'll go take a look at that in a second. But EURUSD, pound USD, I'm not really a big fan of the price action there. I'm more focused with the yen pairs at the moment and a few other pairs which we'll get through. So yeah, I'm not really a big fan of EURUSD. Again, with this one, it's the same situation as the DXY, but flipped. We still got the major swing high up there, major swing low down there. That's still our bearish leg. Potentially price could still be looking to pull that back and continue. As long as we don't take out the high there, I would still have that bias. But of course, as we can see, it's been a very kind of choppy move in the market. We're starting to form some higher lows, lower highs as well. So price overall kind of just squeezing a little bit in this triangular pattern. So the price action hasn't been clean. I think that's the right word. Price may still be bearish in the higher time frames, but it's not clean. Therefore, I'm not really looking to trade it. There are other pairs that look a lot better, which we'll go through shortly. EURUSD still looks pretty corrective as well. So I'm waiting to see price take out these highs and lows. This is what I was talking about in the weekly analysis. I'm not really looking to get involved until I see price make a strong push to the upside or a strong push to the downside. And then I'll look for opportunities. Because at least at that point, there's momentum, a bit of clarity in terms of direction as well. and then I can look for opportunities. But right now, I'm kind of interested in the middle of things. So EURUSD, very, very flat bias. If my bias on the DXY short term does play out, we could see a move to the upside for Euro, potentially back to the highs there. But like I said, I'm not interested myself until I see confident highs being taken out, and then I'll look for opportunities. Again, whether to the upside is the downside, I'm not really too concerned. I'm just looking for a good opportunity in the market. Pound USD looks a little bit better than Euro, so I do have a bearish bias for this one. I did say on the weekly analysis as well, for a bit more of an intraday setup, should price break through support with some clear momentum, pullbacks do look good for this one intraday. Perhaps a push back down to the swing low does depend on how things set up, but something like this, a retest of the low, could look like a really nice opportunity on an intraday level. Markets forming lower highs, we're still seeing impressive bearish momentum to the downside. If we can see that in a similar fashion again, that would be great. And yeah, push back to that low looks pretty likely. Of course, we got the swing low down here. You can always leave positions to run towards, but overall, to me, pound USD looks pretty bearish. We respect the highs very well last week. Of course, respecting support as well. Prior support turned resistance, so that was a healthy rejection. And again, if I expand to the higher time frames, we're still forming consistent lower highs as well. So you've got one over there, second there, third there. This could be your fourth for, again, another push to the low. So pound USD still seeing bearish momentum, still seeing bearish structure. The trend's a little bit easier to maneuver with here for pound than euro. So I prefer this one. And in terms of opportunities, this could look good here, maybe later in the week if you do see price continue to push through. And then we can start to talk about these lows should we get the break of 1.225. But I do still have a bearish bias for pound USD. I think the Bank of England interest rates helped with that, keeping pound pretty bearish. In terms of dollar CADs, yeah, dollar CAD, we'll take a look at dollar CAD next. In terms of dollar CAD for this one, like I said, this is the only USD pair which I do really like because of the massive fake out to the upside. Because I know a lot of positions would have been liquidated above the highs here. Now I want to use that to my advantage, expecting follow through to the downside. As I said last week and on the weekly analysis, there's two ways I'm looking to trade this. The safer way would be waiting for price to break outside of this support level. So commit to the downside, then look for pullbacks of that, and so on and so forth. Or the slightly more aggressive trade, but could be a bit more rewarding if it does play out in terms of the bigger move. Waiting to short back at the high of the range. So should price respect support well and we do push up, this could be a really nice place to short. Not only are you the high of the range, but if you can hold a short back to the low and it gets the breakout, you can potentially hold that for a lot further. And of course, you'll be shorting at a better price as well. So your risk to reward should be a lot greater there as well. But in terms of the analysis, I've mentioned a few times dollar CAD trading at really, really big levels here on the weekly chart. As you can see, massive resistance here at 1.46, 600, 1.47 roughly. Massive resistance once, twice, and there again. So the possibility of another move to the downside is pretty likely. Again, I'm not necessarily expecting a massive sell-off like we did in those two prior occasions. Just a reaction, possibly to retest this level here, I think is a pretty reasonable expectation for dollar CAD. And of course, it all does play DXY and USD news will play a big role in that. But in terms of the technicals, things do look pretty bearish, and we're definitely trading in bearish territory right now for dollar CAD. So shorts look good, just waiting for the break and retest, or should we push up to the high there at 1.4485? I think that's a nice place to short as well. But I do expect a lot more downside there for USD CAD. In terms of Aussie dollar, I'm not the big fan of this one. It does look like price is just consolidating at the low here. So you've got equal highs. Well, not really equal highs. We create a new high, create a new low, but more or less, the market isn't going anywhere. Start between support, start between resistance. So because we've had a pretty long-standing bearish trend in the market, as we can see since September, we've been trending pretty well to the downside. Now we're starting to become a bit more flat. Is this the bottom of the trend? Is this where price finds its feet before we do see an upside move? Potentially. What I'll be looking for is price to break the highs and looking for pullbacks afterwards, because at the moment we've just broken lows, so price could still form a lower high and continue down, but I'm not really interested in shorting. because we're not really seeing that momentum that we once had with the bearish trend. It's looking a little bit dry. So unless we really break to the downside with some heavy momentum, then I'll contemplate some more shorts. But at the moment, things are drying up to the downside. We're seeing a lot of rejection at daily support there as well. And if we look to the left, massive daily support level here as well. We zoom out, really big reaction to the upside. As you can see, we're trading at a similar price right now. So, did not mean to do that. So as we can see, price is at really strong support. And, a potential move to the upside does make a load of sense from here. But in terms of actually finding a good buy, I do want to see price take out the highs again and then look for some pullbacks afterwards. New Zealand dollar, pretty much the same situation, although I do prefer Aussie because we're at major support. This one's not quite there yet. Well, it's pretty much in the same area, but Aussie dollar's testing the area a little bit better. New Zealand dollar is pretty much at support as well, but Aussie's kind of pierced through and taken out the wick as well, which is very, very important because that means liquidity has been taken. If you look at Aussie dollar, if I draw it from the wick low there, you can see we spiked through that. So now I expect a reaction to the upside. Of course, as the USD will probably do the same thing. They move in a very similar fashion. So if Aussie dollar makes the move up, New Zealand dollar probably do the same thing as well. But the Aussie ticks more of my boxes, so I'd rather trade that one. But it's the same, pretty much same price action. More or less equal highs here, equal lows there. Market's consolidating. We've had a really nice bearish trending for a while. It looks like we're forming potentially a bit of a bottom for that trend. If that's the case, let's break to the upside, then find some pullbacks, higher lows, and then some upside as well, and then possibly some shorts if we do want to continue that trend later on. But that's really the play I'm looking for. That might take a while to set up. And yeah, in terms of gold, gold is flying to the upside. Very, very bullish this morning. Very strong 4H candle close there, breaking the highs. On the weekly analysis, I noted that gold is starting to consolidate. Equal highs there, failed to break through last week after NFP. So it looks like price is in a bit of a consolidation. I said, okay, we might see price pause a little bit. If you're looking for buys, you want to see price break the high strongly, which we've done 100%. Now that does present some opportunities for some pullbacks. I'll still keep it intraday because gold is still a bit overstretched to the upside. We've been very consistent with the higher lows, I must say, but we haven't really seen a meaningful pullback in a while for gold. It's just been push, slight pullback, push, slight pullback, push. So the market is definitely due something like this eventually. But of course, I'm not going to try and expect that or predict that. We don't really have much signs saying that will happen. We do have that 3K big psychological level up there, which may be where price is heading towards. Looks like we just hit 2,900. So I don't know, maybe we'd see a bit of a reaction. But in terms of intraday, I would keep with that bullish bias, looking for more pullbacks, expecting more upside, at least trading it back to the relative high there. So yeah, very, very bullish for gold. I'll keep it simple, look to the lower time frame, low time frames for opportunities, and I'll just keep buying that as long as the trend stays intact. In terms of silver, it's a bit awkward. I'm still bullish on silver, looking to buy it, but I'm not a big fan of how we reacted on Friday. We had NFP, of course, and price was looking very bullish at one point. We're breaking through the highs, which we did. However, we didn't sustain that. Formed a big wick and came crashing right back down. So because of that, it's kind of ruined the setup a little bit. So if I do get into some buys with silver, I'm still looking for buys in a similar area. Still do have the same bias. Of course, gold's flying to the upside. Silver can very much do the same thing. But I do want to see price come back for another retest, wick through these lows first to show me an inability to head lower. Then I'll look for the buy. But the idea is still the same. Still looking for the next higher low in this sequence. So yeah, and still around 31.6, 31.7. But I do want to see another push to the downside, some heavy rejection at the lower time frames. Because at the moment, with this rejection here, it kind of looks like a big double top. Your prices tried to continue higher but failed. So that's more of a bearish signal than a bullish one. So I need to see some equal rejection to the downside before finding entries. But the idea is still the same. I'm still broken structure here on the left, just about. And I'm still looking for a push back to the highs there. As long as we continue this trend, I see it pushing to the highs. So yeah, still very bullish on silver, very bullish on gold.